Welcome back to the Vitariq Health Podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Joanne. Hey, everyone.
So today we're diving into something that, well, let's be honest, probably hits close to home for a lot of us. We're talking about stress eating versus comfort eating. And you know what? I actually thought they were the same thing until...
Oh my God, same. Like, isn't all emotional eating just emotional eating? But turns out there's actually some pretty fascinating differences between the two.
Right? And I think understanding these differences can be, it can be really helpful for people who are trying to figure out their relationship with food because, let's face it.
We've all been there.
Exactly. Whether it's reaching for that bag of chips after a brutal day at work or diving into ice cream while watching Netflix on a Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm. And before we jump in, just a quick reminder that we're not doctors or nutritionists. We're just two people who are passionate about health and wellness, sharing what we've learned along the way.
Absolutely. So if you're dealing with serious eating concerns, definitely talk to a healthcare professional. But for the rest of us who just want to understand ourselves a little better, let's dig in.
So let's start with stress eating. Matt, when you hear stress eating, what comes to mind?
Honestly, that scene from those movies where someone's having a panic attack and they're just shoving cookies in their mouth, like frantic eating.
That's actually not a terrible visual because stress eating is really about that immediate, almost compulsive response to acute stress.
Right. So it's like your body is in fight or flight mode and...
Exactly. And the key word there is acute. We're talking about sudden, intense stress, like you just got yelled at by your boss, or you're stuck in traffic and running late for something important, or
you just had a fight with your partner.
Yes. And what happens is, well, when we're stressed, our bodies release cortisol, which is that stress hormone, and cortisol actually increases our appetite, especially for high-calorie, high-fat, high-sugar foods.
So it's literally biological?
It's totally biological. Your body thinks, oh crap, we're in danger, we need quick energy, even though the danger is just your inbox overflowing with emails.
That actually makes me feel a little better about stress eating, to be honest.
Well, and here's the thing about stress eating. It usually happens pretty quickly. Like, you don't sit down and think, I'm stressed, I should eat something. It's more like you're stressed and suddenly you realize you just demolished half a bag of pretzels.
Oh, God, yes. It's like you come back to consciousness and you're like, what just happened?
Defining comfort eating, 3 minutes.
Okay, so that's stress eating. Comfort eating it's different. It's more intentional, I guess?
How so?
Well, comfort eating is usually about seeking emotional comfort or trying to fill some kind of emotional void. It's less about immediate stress and more about underlying emotions.
So like sadness, loneliness, boredom?
Exactly. Or even happiness, actually. Like, comfort eating isn't always about negative emotions. Sometimes people comfort eat when they're celebrating or...
Oh, interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah, like think about how we use food in celebrations. Birthday cake, holiday feasts. That's a form of comfort eating, too. We're using food to enhance positive emotions.
Huh. So comfort eating is more like planned. Like you make a conscious decision.
Not always planned, but yeah, it's more conscious. Like you might think, I'm feeling really sad today. I'm going to order my favorite pizza. Or, I've had a long week. I deserve this pint of ice cream.
The I deserve this thing is huge, isn't it?
Oh my God, yes. Comfort eating often comes with this narrative we tell ourselves, like we're justifying it somehow. Whereas with stress eating, there's usually no narrative. It just happens.
And comfort eating, it seems like it would be more tied to specific foods, like foods that have emotional significance.
Absolutely. Comfort foods are usually things from our childhood or foods associated with good memories. Like, for me, it's my grandmother's chocolate chip cookies. When I'm comfort eating, I'm not reaching for just any cookie. I'm specifically craving that connection to
the feeling those cookies represent.
Exactly.
So let's break down the main differences here, because I think this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, so first, timing. Stress eating happens fast. Comfort eating is usually slower and more deliberate.
Right, and the emotional state is different too. Stress eating is about acute anxiety or panic, while comfort eating is more about, well, seeking comfort for various emotions.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the awareness factor. With stress eating, you're often not really aware of what you're doing until after. With comfort eating, you're usually pretty aware. You might even be savoring it.
That's a good point. Like, stress eating feels almost unconscious, but comfort eating, you're present for it.
Exactly. And the food choices are different too. Stress eating tends to be whatever's available and convenient. You're grabbing the first thing you can find.
Yeah, like that handful of nuts from your desk drawer,
Or eating cereal straight from the box at 2 a.m.
been there. But comfort eating is more specific, right? Like you said, with your grandmother's cookies.
Right. Comfort eating is about specific foods that have emotional meaning. And this might sound weird, but there's often a ritual aspect to comfort eating.
What do you mean?
Like, you might have a specific way you eat your comfort food. Maybe you always eat ice cream while watching a certain type of movie, or you always order the same pizza and eat it in the same spot on your couch.
Oh, like creating a whole comfort experience, not just eating comfort food.
Exactly. Whereas stress eating is just consumption. There's no ritual, no savoring.
And I'm guessing the aftermath is different too.
Oh, totally. After stress eating, you often feel guilty or confused. Like, why did I just eat that entire bag of chips? But after comfort eating, the feelings are more complex.
How so?
Well, sometimes you feel better, like you actually got the comfort you were seeking, but sometimes you feel guilty because you know you were eating emotionally, and sometimes you feel worse because the underlying emotion is still there.
Right, because the food didn't actually solve whatever you were trying to comfort yourself about.
Exactly. Food can provide temporary comfort, but it can't fix loneliness or sadness or whatever the root issue is.
Why this distinction matters. 3 minutes.
So why does it matter that we understand the difference? Like, both are forms of emotional eating, right?
Yeah, but I think the strategies for dealing with them are really different. Like, if you're trying to address stress eating, you probably need to focus on stress management techniques.
Like meditation or exercise or...
Right, or breathing exercises or finding other ways to manage that acute stress response. But if you're dealing with comfort eating, you might need to look at the underlying emotional needs.
That makes sense. Like, if you're comfort eating because you're lonely, the solution isn't necessarily stress management, it's addressing the loneliness.
Exactly. And I think sometimes people feel bad about comfort eating because they think they should have more willpower, but understanding that it's serving an emotional function can be really helpful.
How so?
Well, instead of just trying to stop comfort eating, you can ask yourself, what am I really seeking here? What emotional need am I trying to meet? And then maybe you can find other ways to meet that need.
That's actually really compassionate. Like, instead of judging yourself for comfort eating, you're trying to understand what you really need.
Yes. And with stress eating, since it's more unconscious, the focus might be more on developing awareness, like learning to recognize when you're in that stress state before the eating happens.
Mindfulness stuff.
Exactly. Maybe keeping a stress journal or learning to pause and take a few deep breaths when you feel that stress response kicking in.
And I guess both types of emotional eating aren't inherently bad, right? Like, sometimes we all need comfort and sometimes we're going to stress eat.
Oh, absolutely. I think the key is just awareness and balance. Like, if stress eating or comfort eating is happening occasionally and not interfering with your health or well-being, it's probably fine.
Right. It's when it becomes the primary coping mechanism that it might be worth looking at.
Exactly. And that's where understanding the difference can be really helpful because the interventions are different.
So let's get practical for a minute. If someone listening is thinking, okay, I definitely do both of these things,
What can I actually do about it?
Great question. So, for stress eating, I think the key is building awareness of your stress triggers and having alternative coping strategies ready.
Like what?
Well, some people find it helpful to keep a stress diary, like noting when you feel stressed and what happened right before. And then you can start to see patterns.
And then have a plan for those situations?
Right. Like if you always stress eat after difficult work meetings, maybe you plan to take a 5-minute walk after meetings instead, or do some quick breathing exercises.
What about in the moment? Like if you're already reaching for the stress snacks?
That's tricky because stress eating happens so fast, but some people find it helpful to pause and ask themselves, am I actually hungry or am I stressed? Just that moment of awareness can sometimes break the cycle.
And for comfort eating?
For comfort eating, I think it's more about exploring what you're really seeking. Like if you notice you always comfort eat when you're lonely, maybe you can brainstorm other ways to feel connected.
Like calling a friend or...
Exactly. Or if you comfort eat when you're sad, maybe you can have a list of other self-care activities that might help, like taking a bath or journaling or listening to music.
But you're not saying comfort eating is always bad, right?
No, not at all. I think sometimes food can be genuinely comforting, and that's okay. The key is just making sure it's not your only coping strategy.
Right. Like having a variety of tools in your emotional toolkit.
Exactly. And I think it's also worth noting that sometimes the comfort food itself isn't the problem, it's the quantity or frequency.
What do you mean?
Like having a small piece of your favorite cake when you're sad might be perfectly fine, but eating the entire cake, that might be worth exploring.
That makes sense. It's about finding balance.
And I think for both stress and comfort eating, it can be helpful to stock your kitchen with foods that serve you better. Like if you're gonna stress eat, maybe have some nuts or fruit available instead of chips.
Though I have to say, when I'm really stressed, an apple is not going to cut it.
Fair point, and that's okay too. I think the goal isn't perfection, it's just awareness and gradual improvement.
So as we wrap up, I think the main takeaway here is that stress eating and comfort eating are different beasts, and understanding the difference can really help us address them more effectively.
Absolutely, and I think being compassionate with ourselves is huge. Like, we're all human, we all have emotions, and sometimes we're going to eat our feelings, and that's okay.
Right. It's not about never doing it. It's about understanding why we do it and making sure we have other tools available too.
And if you're listening and you recognize yourself in either of these patterns, just know that you're not alone. Like, this is such a common human experience.
Definitely. And if you found this helpful, let us know. We love hearing from you all.
You can leave us a message in the comments or send us an email. We read every single message.
And if you have topics you'd like us to cover, definitely let us know too. We're always looking for new ideas.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care of yourselves.
And remember, small steps count too. You don't have to change everything overnight.
We'll see you next week.